Hello and welcome to Horror Boys, the #1 horror movie podcast in all of downtown Kentucky's channel. I am Austin, joined as always by
Chris?
Isaiah?
That's right. We are the Horror Boys. This is a horror movie podcast. We review horror movies on it. Right now, we are at the tail end of a Friday the 13th arc. And
Thank
buddy, am I...
Goodness. Are we at the tail end of it?
It has spun out at the end here. Yeah, let's just jump right into
NASCAR
it.
race.
Yeah, the format of this podcast is we go over like scene by scene what happened.
Oof.
Let's just jump right into this.
Yeah, can we please?
Let's just get this started.
Rip off the Band-Aid.
We open with a car heading to a cabin at Crystal Lake. We're no longer in Manhattan, baby.
Yeah, the entire last movie.
Didn't happen.
Did it happen? Who knows?
Is
It was
Jason a
somebody's
kid
fever dream.
anymore? No. Is it explained what happened to him? I guess
No.
maybe you could make some jumps, but no.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. We have at this point an unnamed girl who we will find out her name later, but I'll leave it here in case you don't watch these movies, which, respect because you probably shouldn't. And you just want to hear us talk about the story. I won't give the spoiler on who this girl is quite yet. But there's an unnamed girl who is at this cabin at Crystal Lake, and she's walks into her house and her light bulb flares out. It goes out but in a fire.
It melts.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
I've never seen that happen with a real light bulb. I'd be pretty scared of the electrical work in the house at that point. But she doesn't seem to care. She just goes to get a replacement bulb, which she goes off to fix the lights and nothing happens to her. Then she comes back and she goes to a mirror and she goes down away from the mirror and then comes back up with that classic horror movie leave the mirror come back.
Yes.
Something's gonna be in the mirror, and then there's not.
That's the second horror movie trope. They completely say no, we're not doing that. And
then she gets in the shower.
Naked
but
and
she
gets
doesn't.
in the shower.
Yeah, she gets in the shower, and lights.
No.
Yeah, she gets in the shower right before the lights go out. I think. The lights go out again, and she goes looking to find out what happened. And she's going looking, and oh my goodness, Jason is behind her.
And not a child anymore.
Not a child, and now his mask is embedded in his face for some reason.
Full monster Jason again. Back in
Real
the
fleshly,
Has
corporeal.
hair again.
It has a lot of really wispy hair.
Yeah, a lot of wispy hair.
Again.
Rank black hair.
And he has a mask that almost looks metal that's stuck into his face, though. It's not just on his face. It's, embedded in.
Yeah, it's like his head is growing.
Yeah, around his mask.
And you just want to adjust it.
But honestly, we're giving this way too much discussion because it doesn't matter. It's not like this is a big reveal why his mask looks like that. We're just...
It won't matter because Jason won't be in the movie for that much longer.
Ooh, what were we talking about?
As you'll find out
yeah,
soon.
Jason startles this unnamed girl and, she falls over the banister into a table in a stunt I'm sure Chris can pull off. He is a master stunt man.
Yeah. I've trained for many years.
Which
we're going to test out my training.
I will say,
at
to
some
be fair,
point in
this movie, unlike for this scene, only this scene, this character getting up from that fall is believable because we find out in a scene that she might have a reason to be trained professionally. This isn't random girl, as we're about to find out, because he chases her. She gets him to chase her into an open field, and then
lights.
Yeah,
from all around start
it's a kill
lighting
zone
up,
for
and
Jason.
she jump rolls into the bush, and a bunch of men descend from trees and start lighting Jason up like the 4th of July in what has got to be the most ridiculous scene.
I believe there's a line later that we find out that he has 100 bullet wounds in him, I believe. Which honestly seems a little on the low side from what we see in this scene.
just
He is-
non-stop
Yeah,
automatic rifles unloading into
But-
Jason.
but that's
And then-
not all.
To top that off, yeah.
They drop bombs on this boy, and he explodes everywhere. And then they're all really excited. They're like cheering, like, "Yeah, we did it! We finally took him down! Thank you,
Yeah.
Agent." I don't know.
Irish.
Something
He's
with
like
an M.
McNulty or something.
No, it's Agent like Mara, maybe
It's Agent Marcus.
Marcus. That says.
I
Marcus.
remember because I looked up who the actress was. And it's
Oh, that
Julie
does say
Michaels.
Marcus. I can totally see it in my handwriting once you said it. Couldn't see it before, but she
Julie
doesn't matter because
Michaels, who
she's.
fights Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
in Point Break.
Right.
But that's all we get from.
Yeah, she is
Julie
out of the
Michaels.
movie now. They celebrate. They're all celebrating. Yeah, we killed him, and then we cut to a mysterious man who we will find out
Hiding
later
in the
is
bushes.
good old Creighton Duke,
That's right.
because that's
Creighton.
a name. Creighton.
Creighton, like from Tarzan.
No, that's
Except
Clayton.
that was Clayton.
That's
That's
Clayton.
yeah.
That's a name. Clayton. This is Creighton.
Yeah, it's Clayton for people who have a hard time pronouncing their L's.
It's like racist, depictions of like a
Oh, yeah.
Japanese person.
Like 70s,
Yeah.
80s. Yeah, stereotypical depictions of an Asian person. Yeah.
But surprise, that character is kind of a horrible character, but not in that way. We do not see any
No.
racism from that character.
No, just lots of misogyny.
But he at this point does say that he doesn't think so, or I don't, something like that, to the effect of
That
exact
Jason.
phrase.
He's just in the
Yeah.
bushes and he's just, I don't think so.
Yeah, because one of them yells like,
Like-
"Jason's dead, we did it," and he's like, "I don't think so."
Yeah.
And then we do get a pan to his heart on the ground, just still
beating.
boop, boop.
Pulsing.
And then we go to the first part of the credits, and then we cut back to a new establishing shot where we're now in somewhere in Ohio, because they flew him out to Ohio to have his autopsy.
The
Where all the
federal
best
morgue.
morgues are.
Yeah, I guess that's.
It's the morgue center of the world. Yeah.
I mean,
Where all the dead go.
I feel like it'd be
I
like
guess.
Washington D.C. Maybe I would have been like, okay, fine, fair. That's where the FBI's morgue is, sure. But no, it's in random town in Ohio. I didn't write down the town, but they're in Ohio now. But also, they're only in Ohio for a scene. It doesn't matter. It's actually really only the credits, because the
Chris,
credits.
is that a different jar of lemonade than the one you drank from earlier?
What?
Unimportant.
Earlier? Same jar of lemonade. Same giant jar.
Okay.
Like
Jason's
Hanukkah, it
body,
just never comes
his
out.
pieces of his body, they're being brought into this morgue, and Jason's getting an autopsy by a man who we much later on find out his name is Phil. He's just he's Dr. Phil as he's known in his circles.
As I called him the entire movie he was in.
Yeah, he's having a lot of quippy dialogue about Jason. I didn't write down any of it. Nothing matters in this because it's all during the credits.
Yeah.
But
it's just
we cut back to him saying things like, "Oh, so many balloons. This. I don't
black
like it."
ooze pouring out from his heart.
Yeah.
Oh, fatty deposits in the heart. Oh,
Yeah.
very interesting medical stuff.
And we find out that yes, as you mentioned, Jason's heart is filled with a black, viscous fluid, and it starts beating again a little bit. And then,
It's beating a lot.
yeah, for an unknown reason, Dr. Phil here, he gets this urge to eat Jason's heart.
And boy
Unknown?
does he.
Yeah.
It looks delectable. Obviously.
I mean, well, the way he bites into it makes it look like some good old Texas barbecue.
He does
Yeah.
devour that heart, which maybe it's the call of evil. It's some sort of power that this.
The Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Eat my heart.
But yeah. So now, after he does that, he starts vomiting some of that black goo back up, and then I still don't know. They come back at the end of the movie. Spoiler. Souls from Jason start like these bursts
Like red
of
orbs
red
enter
orbs
into
of
him?
light that are maybe souls of past victims. They're the demonic
Never
presence. They are Jason, I guess. I don't know.
It might be spoilers connected to the Evil Dead universe.
It
because
might be because
I
this movie
think the guy
does
who
connect
directed this
itself to
movie-
the Evil Dead universe later.
Yeah, like it tries really hard to do that.
It really does go like, "Hey, we own Evil Dead," because this is we didn't talk about this at the beginning, but during those credits, we see the words New Line Cinema across the screen because this is the first movie created by New Line Cinema, not Paramount.
Whoa.
Because after the box office failure that was Jason Takes Manhattan, they sold off the rights to Jason, and he is now owned by, now owned by New Line Cinema, which also is why this movie is not called Friday the 13th. They got the rights to Jason, but not Friday the 13th yet. I believe they do get it later because I believe the remake is created by New Line.
Okay.
But wait, they get the word Friday on its own, though.
But they still couldn't call it Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
That's why the title of this
Final
We don't know
Friday.
which Friday.
Yeah,
Okay.
the title of this movie is Jason. I don't know if we mentioned that at the beginning, but we're talking about Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday. They can't call it Friday the 13th, though, which is also why the next movie is called Jason X. Because
Jason
once
X,
again, we can't call it Friday the 13th.
I feel like
Also,
Yes?
Jason X is clever because it's X and that's cool, and
Yeah.
also X is 10. Ooh.
Yeah.
X is cool.
X
Yeah.
is a cool letter, which represents a cool number in 10.
Anyways, we're not talking about a cool movie today. We're talking about
Oh,
To be
yeah.
fair, we won't be next
Jason
week
Goes to
either.
Hell.
We
Yeah,
won't
that's
be
fair.
next week either.
Yeah, no.
But we are talking about Jason Goes to Hell, which is.
We already talked about my favorite scene in the movie, which happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So everything is literally downhill from Jason getting shot to death and then blown up.
Oh, there's a really good scene we will get to in a little bit, but
That's true.
let's get to the right thing. The weird souls, they enter Dr. Phil, Jason Phil. I think I might just call him. Probably call him Phil. I don't know. I might call him Jason Phil. We'll see what I decide as we go on.
Dr. Phil Voorhees.
Yeah, Phil.
All right.
He then probes this other doctor who comes in. He takes this probe and kills him with it.
Yeah, he wields the probe like Wolverine.
Yeah, he does.
And it's interesting.
Yeah, then he.
It's a good death.
It was. It was.
In
a good
my
death. It
opinion.
was. I will say on
This
this movie,
face mashup.
there are a lot of good deaths in this movie. The movie gets credit
And that's it.
for that.
And that alone.
That's it.
Exactly that.
Yeah, and then actually, here's another thing I will give it credit for. A cool moment is he walks out, and there was a couple other scenes earlier we skipped over because they are really non-consequential. When the two doctors come in, both Phil and the unnamed one, they walk past some security guards. One of which is played by Kane Hodder, who is Jason. Like the bigger one, the one with the beard, he is Kane Hodder. So that's actually, it's a really cool moment. It's like, oh, it's Kane Hodder. Oh, Kane Hodder's good. We can see his face. And then off screen, Jason kills Kane Hodder and the other security guard. We see their dead bodies on this news report recap. Well, do you remember the name of the special show it was?
American Case File.
Yes, American Case File, which is hosted by Robert, last name. Can't remember his last name. But he's hosting this, giving, if you're a first-time viewer, I guess, of this movie, they give you a little bit of, the backstory of Jason here. So I guess you could jump in on this movie if you're, a masochist or something.
This was my first Jason movie.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it through to completion. I just saw it on TV once, and I saw the Jason getting shot and then blown up, and I was like, I have to know more. What's happening right now?
No more.
But yeah, so we have that news report, or the, case file show, and we also, this is where we get introduced to Creighton Duke. We find out his name, and he's a bounty hunter, and he's, explaining how Jason, he's not the body, he's not the man. Jason he's more of a entity who he kind of hints at him being able to jump bodies here. He doesn't fully, expound on it yet, but that's where we are in this movie. Jason, if you're wondering, this is more of a,
It's getting real supernatural.
weirdly supernatural, and
Don't worry.
This is a possession. This is very much
even more supernatural.
This is more of a possession movie than a Friday the 13th movie, and not a good one.
It gets very mystical.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is that in a lot, I don't know if it's every movie, but in a lot of these movies, certainly the last one too, in the beginning with the first one, we get kind of conflicting summaries of what Jason is and how he became Jason, whether or not he actually drowned. that was kind of gradually decided, I think, over a
Oh,
few
you
movies
know,
in the
there's no
middle.
thought process
You
here.
know,
I say, each director comes in and says, "I have a story," and they go, "All right, cool, that's
and they
fine,"
just mash it on top of the other one in these
and they go, "We
layers.
retconned it. What are you gonna do about it?"
Observation.
Here it is. Yeah, it's yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now we meet.
He didn't drown in that lake,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. We
Well,
meet.
like that's kind of how the whole franchise started. Was like he drowned, and
Yeah.
then it turns out he was living in the woods the whole time.
Or he
But then
drowned and
later we
now
see,
he's
oh, he
back.
did
We
drown.
don't know. We don't know that
Yeah,
part of his story. It's so.
Yeah.
There are some good moments throughout this whole series, but man, as a series, is it awful? Like ignoring even the great movies, they are still. Even if it was only the great movies, those movies still contradict each other, and therefore it is a bad series.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we meet a character who's working at this diner named Dianna, who kind of feels like a
Like she should be important.
yeah, like she's gonna be important, maybe a final girl even. She's not, but they kind of give that aura to her. And we have her working at
And
this diner.
we don't know why.
We're meeting some of the other kind of diner people who we don't find out any of their names until much later, but you know, we have the
No.
diner people. There's some fun people there. There's some fun, quirky characters. Some of the honestly highlights of the movie are them. They're just kind of
Yeah.
they're fun. Like they're the crazies, but not too crazy where it's annoying like in 5. Like
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
dude.
Good old Pookie.
yeah, Pookie, whose name is like Shelby in the credits. Not Pookie.
Huh.
Just pointing it out there.
Pookie's a nickname.
Pookie's a nickname,
Yeah,
and we
or
never
worse,
know
real
his
name.
name is Shelby in the movie. But his IMDb credit is Shelby, not Pookie.
Played by actor Leslie.
Yes.
Leslie something.
Yeah.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
His actor's name is Leslie. Yes. He's a kind of well-known actor. He's done a lot of bit roles.
Mhm.
He's got a really iconic
thick
voice,
Southern
kind
accent.
of. Yeah. He's very little.
His name is Leslie Mann.
Mm.
No,
No,
that's a woman.
That's not Leslie Mann. she's in a lot of comedies.
I can find it. Hold on.
Well, while
Yeah,
Chris,
go on though.
yeah,
Go
while
on,
Chris looks for that, we will talk about how Dianna, she's just kind of here, and we're finding out this diner is capitalizing on Jason's recent death. There's having these 2-for-1 burger sales, which these burgers are shaped like hockey masks. There's all these like hockey masks paraphernalia hanging up. Like it's very like celebratory that hey, this thing that's been over our town for months, like 20 years, 17 years, I think it's actually said at some point in this movie. Yeah, 17 years is done, which, like, yeah, I could understand celebrating at that point.
Leslie Jordan.
All right. It didn't
Leslie
matter,
Jordan.
but yeah, now we know.
Also, if you look up the Jason Goes to Hell cast on Google, and then show all,
Uh-huh.
there's an actress named Catherine Atwood,
Oh.
and her attributing photo is a PlayStation 2 game.
Okay, well, we're going to move on, because...
Called Barbarian. There you
Okay,
go.
we don't have time to talk
Fun
about this
fact.
random character that we don't know who they even are.
Yeah, just really caught my attention.
All right, now we
Anyway,
have Creighton, who meets Dianna, and he's
says
definitely
some really inappropriate things.
He's very inappropriate towards her. Says some definitely not PC things, and is very just awkward and cryptic. She's
Yeah.
important, but we don't know why yet.
I need you to come with me. Everybody's got a price. Come on, what's your price? You blow me, please. Stuff along that nature.
Harmonica, blow his harmonica.
Yeah, blows harmonica, and then the sheriff comes in and intervenes and is like, "That's my woman." It's like, well, that's just because she hasn't had to taste the Creighton Duke.
We didn't have
And
to go
it's
over all
all-
dialogue. We could have
It's
just
all
called it.
very gross
Yeah.
and weird, and then Creighton Duke basically like gets escorted out and arrested.
Yeah,
And that's that scene.
yeah.
Weird, like, because he threatens me, implies that, like, they don't know what they're dealing with. He's going to get away. And then the
Yeah.
next time we see him, he's in jail. Like, handily.
Yeah. Then we find out that Diana needs to tell Steven something about Jessica. We don't know what yet, so she tells him, "Hey, you need to meet me at my house tonight at 11 so I can tell you." now we cut to Steven on his way there later that night, and he picks up 3 hitchhiking teens, baby. Because, they're out, they're ready to go and, smoke the devil's lettuce and do some premarital harmonica.
Harmonica playing.
Jason's not there to kill him no more. Like, that's basically the line.
That's their explicit plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the girls is, for some reason, really into Steven, even though he comes across as really nerdy at this point. Yet every girl wants him.
But, as we find out later in the movie, isn't at all.
But he might just have glasses and have a weird face, because he's also like wearing a Letterman jacket most of the movie, so I guess he's not supposed to be the nerd, but he comes across as the nerd, especially here.
And also does all sorts of really crazily athletic things.
I feel like Steven just had the actor just delivered his first couple lines really badly.
Yeah, and he was wearing glasses, which is, in a horror movie like this, is a telltale sign of, oh, he's a nerd. Not everyone who has glasses is a nerd.
Yeah.
That's not real life, but in this movie, that's life.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, it's the same sports characterization that gives us like, oh, that kid's got candy bars. So he's obviously like an obese autist.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, the nerd thing. Then he's got the Letterman jacket. He wears it the whole time. Yeah. But he's also like 30.
Yeah.
Maybe. We don't know how old he is.
He peaked in high school.
But yeah, he peaked in high school, and one of the 3 teen girls really wants him to come with them to, do some premarital harmonica with her. But he's like, I can't. I have to go talk to this girl. She's like, oh, your girlfriend? And he's like, he just doesn't say anything.
He's poor unnamed girl to play third fiddle.
Yeah. So she's just stuck there, and now we have these three teens. They mentioned that they're gonna go skinny dipping later that night. Then we cut immediately back to them coming back from skinny dipping, and they return to the campsite. And 2 teens, they break off. They're like, hey, we're gonna go do some premarital harmonica in the tent. Can you stay out of the tent for 30 minutes? And she's like, I'll stay out of the tent all night. It's such a beautiful night. And the other girl's like, all right, cool. And she leaves to go do her harmonica playing.
See harmonica, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have
more unwelcome than a third fiddle in our harmonica playing session.
That's true.
That's good. You should write that down.
Maybe don't.
Thank you.
It wasn't that good. Then we leave the other girl alone in the woods. She's, staring off into, the stars for a little while. Because, you gotta kill some time.
Like 2 seconds before she gets up and is like, yeah, I gotta
pee. She goes off to pee. She hears some, branches break. Says, it's nothing. Here's another branch break. Oh, and then Jason kills her. Guess she should have looked for those branches.
Yeah, Dr. Phil gets her with the probes.
Oh, yeah. Jason Phil does kill her there.
Jason Phil.
Phil. And then we cut back to the teens playing harmonica. Mm-hmm. And so they're starting to play harmonica, and the girl's like, hey, I have to go pee too. Because apparently everyone...
Actually, she needs to get a rubber, for the harmonica.
They need a protection for the harmonica, layers. A nice harmonica cover.
I want to get that.
Yeah.
Those harmonica HTIs. Harmonica transmitted infections.
Illnesses. Yep.
But yeah, she goes off to get that and pee. She comes back with that. He says, I don't like this. And she's like, all right, whatever. And she throws it away.
I guess she just went to go pee.
I guess it was really just about peeing. And then they have a very prolonged, most graphic harmonica playing scene we've had in the whole franchise.
Yeah, yes. Followed swiftly by one of the most graphic deaths we've had in the franchise.
One of the best deaths ever. Jason brutally kills Debbie. We do find out this one girl's name. We don't find out any of the other. Her name is Debbie because when she dies, the guy yells, Debbie!
Oh, crap, Debbie!
Yeah.
As,
Debbie,
blood sprays all over his face.
So Debbie I think it's like the back end of it's like the handle of a...
It's a fence post.
Is it a fence post? I thought he picked up a shovel.
No, like they show that it's a fence post, but that's that one little plate. That's the part that goes into the ground. Yeah.
Possibly. Very, yeah. So he stabs... It doesn't really matter what it is, because it's just a rod going through her and ripping her in twain. She is... in 2 pieces now.
From the stomach up,
it was
through her shoulder, and she just...
I'll be honest, when we got the shot through the stomach, I was like, that's not a bad death for this franchise. They could be hit or miss. And then they just go, we killed her. We pull it all the way through her body.
Yeah, one of the best kills in the franchise
In the
in
one
one of the worst
of
movies in the franchise.
Yeah.
So,
And then I guess the guy dies off
Cool.
screen. We never see him again, but also
Nope.
we don't get to see his death.
she just dies, and then it cuts away, and it's like, oh, okay.
Because let's be honest, we didn't need another death. We saw that awesome death. It's fine.
Yeah.
Moving on. It's fine. We can just die
I don't
off
want to
screen.
spoil the viewer.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, New Line Cinema also apparently lost the rights to Jason like hiding bodies in new places because that doesn't happen whatsoever. In this
that
movie.
might
You
have
were
just
being
been
serious.
that might have just been a well, no, see, actually, that was the body Jason was in, like to hide the bodies. That's actually not
That
the
was
Jason
just-
entity.
Yeah,
It's
right.
It's a whole thing.
That was
You just
all
don't
little boy
understand.
Voorhees. He just liked to do
Just like
That was
how some of these characters, they do slightly different things. It feels like because they don't know what they're doing with the story.
like speak and emote. And
Yeah, when one of them
very
speaks
end,
later,
we'll get to it. Yeah,
it's because that one can speak, but the body Jason's normally in can't. And then there's the kid body that gets stuck still down in under Manhattan. I
he's
guess
there.
it's a
Yeah,
different body he was in that I don't want to try to pretend like this makes any sense. This movie's not good. We cut back to Dianna. She's outside the diner, kind of taking out the trash and stuff like that. And we have Josh, a cop, show up and try to help her a little bit and be like, "Hey, don't worry about the sheriff. It's all right." And she's like, "I just don't want to be." I guess according to her, they're not together because she doesn't want to go steady. They use that classic 50s term of going steady randomly here. She's like, "I guess I'm just not the girl to go steady with." And I'm like,
yeah. I rewinded this scene.
this movie's from
Rewound it.
'93. Why are you throwing out going steady?
Well, also, like, it's
steady
just a-
without Jess.
Going steady, the Letterman jackets, and
What is this movie?
Oh, the bonnet later on in one of the scenes
I think it's this next scene.
where she
isn't it?
gets slammed into
That's
the
this
car
literal
door.
next scene.
Yeah.
That's with Josh. Josh and her. Josh leaves her, and this random other girl shows up in a bonnet, who's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late." And they both want to play harmonica, it seems, and they're like, "Let's go, let's go!" And before they can leave, though, Phil Jason shows up, smashes her head in the door, and we cut away. And we cut away to the Voorhees house. We find out much later,
which exists.
Yeah, which there's
For the
a
first
Voorhees
time
house.
ever.
Yeah, and at this
Find
point,
out among his many talents, Jason is also a very experienced barber.
yeah, and really into like kidnapping people. It was like he had him like tied down rather than just like bludgeoning him or I don't know, killing him.
Also into
Because
BDSM.
we see that he can turn into killed dead bodies, but for some reason, Josh has to be alive and like Dexter level torturing before he does it to him, and like shaves his beard like you mentioned, because I guess when Phil wants to French a guy, he wants to make sure he has no mustache.
Oh yeah, it's 1993. He's not a homosexual.
To be fair, we don't actually know that that's how it gets transferred at this point. We just know it's some sort of like mouth to mouth. We find out later that
They
it's
have to
basically
make
French
out.
kissing, but not yet. At this point, we just see him over him, and they cut away after he passes Jason to Josh.
Weird,
Now
like
we
Hung
Kidney
Demon
stone.
style.
now we cut back to Dianna, who's getting a phone call from Jessica, who we find out is her daughter, who's telling her, "Hey, I want to come visit." And we also find out in the background of the shot that she's, "I want to introduce you to my, boyfriend. You probably know who he is. He's Robert from the TV
American Case
show."
File.
Yeah, ooh, that's a big reveal.
Whoa.
And then she's like, "Oh, cool. I also need to talk to you about I don't remember. Diana's like, "Okay, well, cool, you come." But before she gets to Josh shows up, and he tries to attack her. But before he gets a chance to transfer Jason to her,
Steven shows up. Woo!
Steven shows up. Your hero of the day, Steven.
Our favorite nerd? Question mark.
Yeah, nerd. Nerd
Washed
job.
up athlete.
Yeah, Steven
With
shows
a
up.
speech impediment. I don't know.
And he stops him from doing it. I believe at some point, either before Steven shows up or after, Diana shoots Steven or Josh in the back of the head, blows out the back of his head. But he's still fine because he's Jason now. He's Josh Jason. It's very confusing. But he's Josh Jason now, and he's fine. But before he can transfer his Jason to her, she ends up getting a knife to the back, and now she's dead.
Isn't it that?
A knife sharpener.
Maybe.
From the angle, like he pulls out like it's the knife rack, and he pulls out the sharpener, and he doesn't put it back. He's like, "This will do."
He
then
might have. I didn't pay.
Fix
All
it
I
right
saw
there,
was him
man.
pull something from the knife rack and throw it at her. I didn't pay attention to what it was. Knowing this series and the weird things they choose to do, you're probably right. It probably wasn't a knife. It was probably a knife sharpener. Because why not? He's never killed anyone with a knife sharpener yet, guys. It's new. It's innovative. It's cool.
Called a honing rod. Thank you.
Okay. But yeah. So Steven ends up kicking him out of the window, stopping her, and she tells him, you have to keep Jessica safe, she says in her dying breath. But right around that time that's happening, the sheriff shows up, and there's no Josh to be seen. And there's a dead woman here, and Steven's got blood on his hands. This looks very suspicious. Also, he's saying like, oh, it was, yeah, I don't think he mentioned Jason yet, because I don't think he realizes it's Jason yet. I think at this point, the only person who realized Jason was Josh was Dianna, who's now dead.
Dianna and Creighton.
Yeah.
Well,
Dianna, who still has not yet learned what Creighton was going to tell.
Well, to be fair, Creighton doesn't know it's Josh right now, because Creighton just knows that he's out there somewhere.
A lot of dramatic
just knows that his
but Dianna,
soul is in her body.
apparently, something we forgot to mention is you can see that it's Jason in whoever he's taking over's reflection.
That's a cool shot.
It is a cool shot until you think about it.
Especially when the reflection recognizes, when Josh recognizes the reflection, but he is Jason.
Recognizes his own reflection and like stops.
He's like surprised. He's like,
and you're right.
Well, yeah.
That's actually right here, though. That's right in this scene because Jason realizes himself and Steven pushes him out. That's what gets him the moment of the chance to stop Jason here. Gosh, this movie is bad.
Well, no, it's consistent because Jason is always surprised when he sees himself in the mirror.
Jason is
He's like,
not...
oh, I'm ugly?
Why is my mask inside my face this time? I thought I was a little kid. What is going on? It's because Jason's the only one who's self-aware about what all the weird changes they keep doing to his story. He's like,
I have hair again?
I thought I was that guy.
He's just as confused as we are.
Yeah, Jason is the only character in the world who knows what's happened in the previous movies, and he's like, how am I here?
But I was a kid and not deformed.
Then I got blown up, and then I went with that guy, and now I'm with another guy. What is going on? He tries to put his demon tongue in her, but Steven shows up, stops it. And this is the first time we see the demon tongue. This weird, like, bulbous black tongue that comes out of his mouth when he's trying to transfer, which I guess
very reminiscent of Aliens.
There's like a little mouth on it. Yeah.
Spoiler to later, maybe that's not a tongue and that's the tail of the weird bug.
Oh, the Jason demon.
The weird demon
like
bug
the
later?
demon itself. Yeah.
I don't know.
That Muppet that they're using. Yeah.
Because it's for sure some sort of demon because as we find out not too distant in the future, there's a Necronomicon involved in this movie.
We're gonna get to that, Chris. Don't jump to that. That's a big reveal. People might care about that.
I mean,
and
I already know.
And I hope that people want to care about this movie, who have any passing care about this movie, watch our podcast rather than suffering through this movie. Let's help them by telling them what happens next. Jessica, she shows up. She's back home to her home. She finds Vicky cleaning up Diana's blood. She's not that shocked by it, so I guess she got a phone call knowing her mom was dead because she doesn't seem to really care.
Black.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
they cry, like, kind of.
Like a little bit of like, oh, I'm so sad. But then it's almost immediately like, Vicky's like, oh, you have a kid? And she's like, oh, yeah, I do. I have a kid now.
Oh, yeah, I've got a kid.
Yeah, I just didn't tell anyone. Oh, he's got Steven's eyes.
Oh, looks like Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dee. All right. And then we cut back to the prison, and Steven is put in a holding cell by Randy. I think it's Randy. Yeah, it's Randy. And he's in the cell next to Creighton. And they're in neighboring cells. And now we have another really weird scene with Creighton. Because Creighton's scenes are weird. So Creighton tells him...
He's kind of just a weird guy.
Yeah, Creighton tells him he can stop Jason. And Crane tells him, and Steven wants to know what's going on, and Crane's like,
But
"Give me your hand."
that's got a high price.
There's a high price.
So that information's got a high price.
Yeah, there's a high price. Give me your
pick-
hand. And
Yeah.
he awkwardly rubs it, and there's some really
and
weird.
He just strokes his hand.
Some really weird
like,
implications.
I don't like where this is going.
And then he snaps his finger.
And you know what? Thankfully, that's what that was.
But don't worry, the scene's
That
not
gentle hand
over.
stroking would not lead you to believe that.
The scene's not over. You still wonder if they're still going there, because he goes, after he gives him a little bit of the information, I believe at this point he tells him about like how, kind of just that. I think this is where he tells him about how Jason.
Jessica's the key to stopping Jason.
Yeah,
He's
Jessica's
like,
the
"Why?"
key. He's like, why?
He's like, oh, that's got an even higher
That's an
price.
even bigger price. Give me your hand again. He rubs it again, and you're still like, where are they taking this scene? He breaks his other finger, thankfully.
Okay, the higher price was a second finger being broken.
And at this point, he tells him that it's because she's a Voorhees, and only the one who, and she's the only one who can kill Jason because a Voorhees brought him into the world, and therefore a Voorhees has to bring him out of the world. Also, he needs a Voorhees to put himself in because he has to be born again and not be in these bodies that keep not working for him. He has to be born again by a Voorhees, which means it leaves either the baby or Jessica.
Although we find out that is not true.
Well,
because he's got to be born like this isn't the Nicodemus situation. It's got to be real, like crawls back in, pops back out.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to this, guys. Stop jumping ahead. We have a whole
Oh.
horrible movie to get through. You're talking about the last scene in the movie, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd just like to point out that they just contradict themselves all the time.
But they really don't, though. I will disagree there. He says it has to be a Voorhees. He does not say they have to be alive.
And then he says that it leaves two options.
Because he didn't think about the dead person. Spoiler. He doesn't specifically say it wouldn't work with her, just that I guess he didn't know that. I wouldn't call that to be fair to this awful, awful movie, that's not a contradiction. That's that character not knowing the full story.
Well, he does talk to Dianna earlier in one of the scenes, so I would say that it is.
No, because he tells her that she's in danger, she's the one he needs. He's trying to tell her that I don't agree that I think this movie is awful, and there's a lot of things to complain about. I don't think at all that's a contradiction. He just doesn't know that the dead body can be used.
He says that it can be later when it happens.
No,
I don't know. It's not that important.
It really is.
The movie is bad, and it's allowed to contradict itself because it is bad.
Does, though. I don't think this movie ever contradicts itself. It contradicts everything else we know before it. But I will say, I think to give the directors maybe the director, not the writer. Let's hope those are different people. The director credit. He made sure to make sure this movie was a cohesive story from what crap he was given. I don't know. Maybe I just like to play devil's advocate and think that there's good in somewhere in here, but I really don't think it's a contradiction. But Jason, where were we? So now we come back to. Sorry, no, we don't. We still hear Steven calls, starts freaking out about his fingers, gets Randy to come check on him, and he steals Randy's gun. He forces Randy into the cell, getting himself out.
Really, nailing home that. Yeah, he's the crazy person after all.
Yeah, maybe Steven is a little off his rocker. Now we have Vicky, who is taking the baby back to the diner. I don't really remember why at this point.
She works there.
But no, I just don't remember why Jessica's not with her baby at this point in the story.
She's hanging with Big Bob, and they've got something important to do.
Okay.
He's on the phone.
Yeah, Robert
it's
and
not
her
really
are going to
big,
go play harmonica, probably.
Maybe. That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
So they just don't want their kid around. Fair.
They pawn their kid off. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So she's at the diner, and she's like, hey, what can I do with this baby? Joey, who is the woman's name, we find out much later, is like, oh, you can't have a baby here. This isn't a nursery. And eventually she's like, well,
she curses, in every other word.
And then she gets a call, though, finding out that Steven broke out of jail, and she's like, all right, cool. She's actually, too fair to Joey's character, she's not a horrible person. She does go, okay, cool. No, we have to protect this baby now.
He just has a tough exterior.
Yeah, she's a very tough exterior. She's a very grating character in a lot of ways. but she's got a heart of gold.
Yeah, as we can see.
And gosh darn it, she loves Pookie.
She's married to Pookie.
She loves Pookie.
Pookie sees the good in Joey.
He does. And then they have their kid, Ward, who Steven shows up in the back of the diner, and Ward, doesn't turn him in or anything. He just says, "All right, here's my car keys." he lets Steven free because he can see the good in Steven. Steven just wanted to see his kid real quick, and he's like, "I understand." Or she.
It's implied,
I'm not sure if Ward's a boy or a girl. I think it's a boy because of the
androgynous
name.
Ward.
But they are very androgynous. I can't quite tell if Ward is male or female.
Pretty sure Ward's.
Yeah, with the name Ward, I think it's a male.
Sure,
I've never met a female Ward.
I've never met a male
I don't
Ward.
think I've met a Ward ever.
I've heard of a male Ward.
That's
I haven't
fair.
seen one in the wild.
Seen one.
But yeah.
It's natural habitat.
So now Steven, he heads to an old abandoned house who we presume is the Voorhees house. But at this point, we still don't know. This is the second time we've seen this building, and we're just kind of like, I guess it's the Voorhees house, is what you're thinking at first. And this is that point where he finds the Necronomicon from Evil Dead.
Isn't it confirmed that it is the Voorhees house because we get like a zoom-in shot and there's the Voorhees name on the mailbox?
Oh, you might be right.
That's right, yeah.
I might have missed that. You're right. I think you might be right.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's confirmed in this next scene because Robert mentions it when he shows up. But he finds the Necronomicon from Evil Dead. Look, Necronomicon's here. Other franchise that had less bad movie? Just had less movies.
It did, thankfully.
It didn't really have a chance to have as many bad movies. But yeah, before he can, do anything with this Necronomicon, he falls to the floor of the house because it's an old house and it breaks under him, and he's stuck in the floor now.
A lot.
Yeah.
It does a lot, yeah.
Several
really
times.
bad floorboards.
Yeah, the floor keeps breaking. It's a really old house. No one's been there in years, okay? It's fine. It makes sense. No one's there. It's bad floor. Termites.
It's
lots of termites.
Lots of termites.
New Jersey.
And then at this point, Steven overhears Robert, who shows up, and he's on the phone with someone, dropping so much exposition to this guy over the phone. He's like, I stole Diana's body. I did. Then I slept with her daughter. Played harmonica with her daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna paint this house. I'm gonna add some extra body parts to this house to make it seem like my story for my show is better. Like, oh, okay, this guy's a bad guy. Okay.
This guy's a psychopath.
Yeah.
You knew he was a bad business guy when he had the phone where he whips out the antenna. Every 80s, early 90s movie where they do that, it's the Wayne's World trope.
To every other good business person in the 80s and 90s at that time frame, that was just the cell phone you had. And if you wanted a cell phone, that was the only one you could have.
In the real world. In movies, what good business people are there?
Oh, none. Because all of these are made with the mindset of capitalism is bad, which, I respect. But yeah, so he has this exposition, but hey, Josh is here now, and Josh, after they have a little scuffle, he passes it to Robert, and then he straight up starts Josh is melting everywhere in a really weird but really cool looking death scene, a lot of really well done, melting, gross out, The Fly-esque, very,
Yeah. Cronenberg looking
very Cronenberg
effects of the body. Yeah.
But yeah.
There's even I don't know. This might be one of those things you chalk up to. It might not be intentional, but there is a pretty good sequence in the middle of his transformation where he looks quite a bit like Jason. So he had half his face melting and one eye, and they really did well on that.
That's
how he's got one functional
I want to give the
eyelid.
movie credit that maybe that was on purpose. Did we?
He has to melt
Wasn't there some other random franchise I felt like they were saying might be connected to this? There was someone's last name at some point.
Aside from Evil Dead?
Oh, Julia Carpenter.
That's later. Sorry, that is later. We will get to that when we
the
get
Carpenter Arctic Expedition
Yeah,
in the basement.
I remember that was a thing, but I remember not writing it down, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't or hadn't already happened. Okay.
But no, yeah, it makes sense with the Necronomicon reference that they're trying to kind of imitate the overly gory style of Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And boy, do they with that whole melting scene. The
really
part
cool.
where his jaw is just left on the ground. It's oof.
These videos exist out there on YouTube, I'm sure, for every one of these movies. You know, all the deaths from this movie. Just watch that. That's all you need for this one.
Watching this movie, not worth it.
No.
You got to see the demon
We'll get to that.
wiggle around on the ground.
All right, so now we have we cut back to Jessica, who she's getting into the shower, but the lights go out and she you know, freaks out. She's like, "Robert, what are you doing, Robert?"
Robert, I'm gonna get naked and take a shower, Robert.
Never says that. Not
No,
true.
she doesn't.
She's just like freaking out a little bit, not like super freaking out, but like, "Oh, lights are out. Is everything okay?" But she almost gets attacked by Robert, but Steven shows up again, baby. Steven shows up,
Steven.
saves the day, pulls her away, kicking and screaming. Which, to be fair, he's
basically
saving her life,
kidnapped her.
but it's a very funny scene of someone who's acting as a hero saving someone while the person who's being saved is yelling at them to put him down. It was kind of comical. They start to drive away, and Robert tries to Robert tries to stop them before they get a chance to drive away. He
Punches through a window.
Punches through the window, and then he gets ran over twice, and then they drive off. And Steven, he tries to, tell Jessica what's going on, but like a lot of characters in these movies, for some reason doesn't just tell the whole story. He tells pieces of it. He's like,
He's gonna start off with this terrible object lesson, beginning with him like killing Robert. Like,
do you think
you saw me
he's
kill
dead?
Robert, right? I killed him. You saw it confirmed that I killed him. And that's like the springboard of his explanation.
Yeah, he's like, but he's not dead. Okay?
Well, you're wrong.
Well, he's not gonna be
alive.
dead. I'm sure he's alive. Okay, but like we should be like on the same side. He never tells her, "Hey, he was actually Jason." Like he could have explained what's going on to her, but no, can't do that yet. She really never gets it fully explained to her, at least on screen. She just eventually kind of is on board.
Pieces it together.
Yeah.
But yeah, she feigns like actually believing him to his like, all right, you're right. We should be together. You should get to see your kid. And then she attacks him and pushes him out of the car. Like, why would you think I'd let you see my kid? You just murdered my mom and murdered my husband, my boyfriend. It's like, and you know what? Fair.
Reasonable.
There's no reason to believe him because he hasn't even tried to give you the crazy part of the story that's not believable.
Yeah. You just ran over your boyfriend instead.
Yeah.
That's his proof.
And then rubbed it in your face.
And now
I totally murdered him, right? You saw it, right?
So she leaves him in the side of the road, and she goes to tell the sheriff what's going on. And the sheriff, he sends Randy, to go pick him up. Randy and Steven, I guess, are friends. It's definitely, there's a friendly vibe between them, but there's never like an explanation for how they know each other or anything like that. They know each other. They live from the same town. And, they're kind of friendly. They get in kind of a little fight. But Randy still, even after they're fighting, is like, come on, man, just let me take you in. Like, he's definitely, like, friends with Steven and just doesn't want to see Steven get hurt. And Steven eventually realizes, you knew I was out here because she's there? All right, take me in.
This is actually a funny scene. This is like one of the more well-done scenes in the movie, I think.
Randy's a
dialogue's
very good
actually-
character. I really like Randy, honestly.
I've got a gun. Oh, yeah? Well, I've got a gun.
Yeah.
And I'm Dirty Dan.
I'm Dirty Dan.
But yeah, and then we're back at the state. We cut back to the station as they're gonna head to the station. We cut back to the station and we find out that Robert is trying to pass Jason to Jessica, but he ends up killing a random cop, and then we think the sheriff by like breaking his nose in like this really violent way. We think he's dead. He's presumed dead. But Steven, once again, the story of this movie, and not in a way that, like, looking back on it now, in a way that's just so much and so lame, he just saves Jessica every time. Oh, she's about to die? Alright, well, Steven shows up now. It's like, okay, Steven's here. Cool. I mean, like, I get it. He's the hero. Like, I get it on, like, a storytelling level. But as someone who watched this movie, it's, okay. Can we do something different to have this stop? Do we have to do him saving her at the last second 4 times?
Never fear. Jason is here. I mean, Steven is here. Do fear, because Jason is also here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert, then also Robert Jason, if you've forgotten who Robert has.
Or Jason Robert.
Jason Robert.
whatever
The
you
current
prefer.
Jason is
Current
Robert.
Jason, known as Robert, bashes 2 more cops' heads together, killing them. And kind of cool kill.
Like Mo from the Three Stooges, but
Yeah,
really
but
gory.
like after he bashes their head, they come out like bloody. Like, and a lot of times in this franchise, they would have chose to not make that kill bloody. That would be like, oh, maybe it's not a kill. He just stopped them, kind of a thing, you know. But they actually chose to be like, hey, look, no, that's a graphic death. See, and you're like, all right, okay, credit to this movie. They make the kills mean something. Too bad they couldn't make the story mean anything. Now we got
And the third cop who's with
that
them.
off at once.
Yeah, the third cop that's with him runs away after seeing the other 2 cops' heads getting bashed together, and then runs straight into Creighton Duke's arm, who's in a cell.
And Creighton escapes prison after this. And we cut to Steven and Jessica, who they show up at the diner, and Joey won't give them the baby because she's with Steven, and Steven is a murderer, and like Joey, it's very understandable that Joey won't give him the baby, and she sends Ward. She ends up sending Ward outside to his death, because he just basically goes outside with his gun she gives him, and he's all like, "Yeah, I got a gun," and then immediately gets killed.
I think without using the gun.
No, he never gets to use it. No, he just dies.
Right? Yeah.
No. He does do a cool gun spin, though.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
But then Robert, he comes inside the building, and Vicky hits him with a shotgun a few times. She puts a couple rounds in him. That, stops him for a little bit. And I believe this point is when Steven and Jessica kind of move further into the back to look for the baby. And then Pookie, or Shelby, he shoots Robert before that didn't work, though, because Robert is now Jason. And he gets his face deep fried.
Yeah.
And then seared, I think, on the oven.
Possibly.
Yeah, he gets thrown onto an oven.
I will say, my notes for this section honestly don't do this little scene justice. There is so much action back and forth
up with what was
that's
happening.
actually really cool. This scene is really good.
What happens is I think he puts his face in the deep fryer. Joey comes up to try to stop him, and like as she's doing that, she's like shouting profanities, and Robert Jason just punches her jaw in.
And it folds upward.
Yeah, straight up like
a little puckered butthole style.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. And then he gets thrown onto the oven.
Yeah, and then he gets thrown on the oven. Now we have Vicky, who, trying to, save the day, picks up a random piece of, rebar that's in the back there, and she rams it into Robert. But she rams it just far enough in that Robert can grab her and pull her onto the rebar. Yeah. And then that's not enough, though. She tells him to go to hell, but that's not enough. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to take you with me, basically. And he smashes her head, and it shoots blood and brain to the ceiling. It was beautiful. This is all part of that same, really well done scene. This whole scene's oh, okay, cool. If this movie was this, it'd be a great movie. But it wasn't.
Yeah. Convoluted demon Jason lore.
Yeah. So now we have Steven. He's reading the note. First we have... I'm forgetting her name. Jessica reads the note and leaves and says, I'm going to get help. And Steven's like, what? Where'd she go? And eventually he finds the note and finds out that it's a note from Creighton, who says, I have the baby. Meet me at the Voorhees house alone.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, crap. She went there. And so he goes off to follow her. We cut to Jessica arriving at the Voorhees house, and, Creighton tells her all the Jason exposition we've all heard. You get to hear it again, because now he's telling it to her.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives her this dagger from Evil Dead as well.
Yep.
Because this movie is Evil Dead's here.
This is how we link this movie to the Evil Dead universe, because we need to do that.
Because that's part of New Line Cinema, and we want to link all of our franchises that we have. All of our horror franchises, we're linking them all in this movie. Spoiler.
Here's the Kandarian dagger. It's how you kill demons, I guess.
Sure. I haven't watched Evil Dead yet. We will be watching that at some point for this podcast, but it's It's not right now, so I don't know the lore. I've never seen Evil Dead. I don't understand really the lore of the Necronomicon in this world or this dagger. But they're special, and I guess if you're a big Evil Dead fan, maybe when you saw this in theaters, if you hadn't gouged your own eyes out by this point, you might have went, "Oh, cool! Oh, the dagger," because that's all it is here. This
I think
is
the
equivalent-
Necronomicon literally only serves
Yeah.
as an excuse to go, yeah, this is why Jason's like an unstoppable undead force.
Basically, this is like in Solo, where they go, "Oh, that's how he got the gun." It's like just fan service for the sake of fan service. It's who cares. So we get the dagger from Evil Dead. Then we cut back to the diner, and we have a shot from Jason Roberts' point of view of someone else. We don't know who walking in, who gets Jason put in them by Robert. We don't know who yet, though.
Yeah.
And then Ed and Randy, Sheriff Ed and Randy, the friend of Steven Cop.
We'll say deputy, basically.
Sure, we'll say Deputy Randy. We'll just say Randy. We'll just say Randy. I don't know why I tried to say what his title was. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just Randy. They show up, and Crane's like, kill. Crane falls through the floor first because the floor is broken. He falls like onto a pipe, like into his leg, but is somehow fine later when he needs to be.
He just yanks that thing right out.
He yanks it out.
Lots of random rebar hanging around in this movie.
And just starts walking though later, like nothing happened.
Yeah, no limp or
No, he's Creighton Duke, Austin.
That's true. He is
renowned bounty hunter,
and if I ever
Jason
slept with him, I would understand. Right? Something like that.
You only had a taste of his harmonica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. Where were we? So yeah, Ed from the basement, Crane's yelling. She's like, I don't know who it is. Like he's like, well, kill them both. Which is kind of fair.
Yeah.
But Ed's coming up.
The wise thing to do
Ed's coming up to her, acting kind of weird, and kind of grabs her like he's evil, even though he's not at this point.
Nope.
We find that out because it's not Ed, it's Randy. But she ends up killing Ed, and then Randy comes towards them, but he's not able to get to her because what a stinking surprise! Steven shows up at just the right second to save her with a machete and chops his head off.
Well,
not
almost.
Like he gives him like the.
He makes it open.
Yeah, he leaves like the nearly headless
Randy's
Nick from the Harry Potter
pass
franchise.
Jason into the baby.
Yeah.
And then Steven comes in to save the day.
You're right. He tries to pass it to the baby.
And then little demon Jason comes crawling out of the neck hole of Randy.
Yeah. I wrote weird Jason bug. He's very bug-like. He's a demon. It's
like
Jason,
a weird
apparently.
baby, but if a baby was cut off at the torso and just like attached a little worm tail.
No, because it wasn't like humanoid at the front. It was like cockroach-like at the front.
Well, it definitely wasn't cockroach-like. It was like a weird rat thing.
A spiny face, like a horny toad.
It was a weird thing.
It was a demon.
We're all giving completely different remembrances.
It was a squiggly demon thing.
Yeah. Some sort of demon slug thing comes out, and it's trying to get somewhere, and it goes down to the basement, and there's this line because this point Crane's already upstairs somehow. He just gets himself up from the basement like nothing happened, and there's this line like, wait, I think it's Steven's like, wait, does it have to be alive? And Crane doesn't have an answer to that. And then we find out the answer to that when Jason, Kane Hodder's back. We got real Jason. Last 10 minutes of the movie, we get the way you paid to see. Jason pops up out of the floor. It's a cool shot because it's Kane Hodder, and he does a really good job with those cool stunts of popping out of things. He does it like every movie. He does a really good job at it.
Yeah.
It's well done. I enjoyed that part. Because Kane Hodder, cool. I like Kane Hodder. Yay! He's back. Creighton gets hugged to death, is what I wrote, because that's basically what happened by Jason. And then Jessica, right around this time, drops the dagger into the basement. Because why not?
Yeah, you're summarizing quite a bit of time there. Yeah.
Did I? I'm sorry.
Oh, they build up that that takes like 3 minutes for her probing around for the dagger under the
Oh, okay.
cabinet,
Yeah, that's all
and
while
then
he's being
she
hugged to
eventually
death,
like
though.
nicks, yeah.
That's yeah. Nothing happened. Here's the thing. He's right. It did
No,
take
nothing
longer,
happened.
but
No,
nothing
you
matters.
were right to skip over it.
Steven then tackles Jason through the window to buy some time, and then for some reason, Jason just decides he doesn't want to kill Steven. He just wants to throw him around.
About four
Oh.
times, like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
It has a name.
What?
It has a name, guys. It's called Hell Baby.
Oh.
The little worm demon.
It didn't occur to us.
No. That's fair.
It's so intuitive.
Jason does go to hell.
It's
Yeah.
Hell Baby.
Jason just keeps throwing him around. He throws him into a playground equipment.
Yeah,
Like,
the fight goes on for way too long.
Way
where
too
Jason
long.
definitely could have just
And it's
killed
just
him at any given
throwing.
point in time.
There's a point where Jason takes a shovel from Steven and rather than
throws it away.
impaling him with it, throws it away because Steven has to live. Which really, why? There's no reason for Steven to live. They literally should have killed Steven here because it made Jason look like an idiot. And for no reason.
Yeah.
Who cares if
And I
Steven
mean, he's
lives?
a hero. He can sacrifice
Yeah,
himself.
let him sacrifice himself
For the
so,
fight.
so
Yeah.
Jessica can get the big say. Big, like, she gets the moment. Like, cause, okay, whatever.
Final
Jessica,
girl.
she daggers him in the heart, but it's not quite enough. Some of the ghost spirit, whatever from earlier we talked about, they start flying off, but not all of them. He's not dead yet. It's not fully done. So
Right.
Steven punches him a little bit before she runs in and does, like, kung fu kick, kicking the knife slightly further into his heart, killing him. And then just arms from hell come out of the ground to pull him under. But
Well, what
no.
happens is that the souls of his victims, presumably, fly up
Maybe?
into heaven
Or
and then
they're
come
the
back
demon.
down.
Or they're
And
demons
then-
connected to the dagger. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
They drag him down to hell.
But
Big,
wait,
weird, goobery
as they're
arms.
trying to drag him to hell, they also accidentally drag Steven a little bit.
Oh no!
And then Jason grabs Steven trying to pull him down further. But hey, once again, Steven survives. Jessica, yeah, she helps him. And they kiss. Then
Yeah.
they walk off. And we have some dust where that had happened. And it starts blowing away a little bit, and it reveals Jason's mask is there. And then a dog randomly comes by and kind of kicks at the mask and decides to not care and walks away. And then we have a really long, lingering shot on this mask before Freddy's hand comes out and pulls Jason's mask into hell. Which,
Yeah.
hey, does this movie deserve that cool setup shot? No. Was that a cool setup shot for two really famous horror franchises at this point that people really wanted to see interact? Yes. And that's a win. That shot is a win. That's a cool shot of, look, we're going to give you Freddy versus Jason. We're going to do it in like 9 years. And there's a whole nother Jason movie before we get to it. Because I guess that movie was kind of stuck in developmental hell. Because like we kind of mentioned, there had been scripts for it back to like part 7 they wanted to do for that instead of him versus knockoff Carrie. This is something people wanted. But, we're going to get it at some point. Just not for a while. Especially not if you're listening to this podcast. If you're waiting for us to get to it at the podcast, we have to get through the whole Nightmare franchise first. But before we get to that, before we talk about what we're talking about next week, we have to talk about how we felt about this movie overall. What are our thoughts? I'm going to go first, as always, and my thoughts are this movie was kind of crap, obviously. I think if you've listened to our review, you obviously can tell that none of us liked this movie. I don't think anyone who's seen this movie would disagree, especially with the consensus I've seen on the internet and through reviews and everything like that is this is considered the worst in the franchise. And I'm going to make a really bold statement here. I disagree. I think this movie is trash. But a movie like my least favorite is Part 5, which is also trash and the story is horrible and all that. And the kills suck. At least this movie has good kills. This movie is trash. You should probably skip it. But if you really want to endeavor to watching all those movies, this is a better movie than 5 in my opinion. Because both movies have plots that make no sense. And what 5 does that I think makes it even worse is that plot...
It's not even a Jason movie?
Yes, but also, neither is this, really. But that plot contradicts the movies that surrounds it in that little Tommy Jarvis arc. 4 and 6 kind of tell one story. but they can't make any sense with 5 existing in there. So 5 is worse in my opinion. But this movie's also trash. I'm not by no means that me saying this movie is good. I said the 2 things, like the 4 things that were good in the whole movie. Those 2 deaths and the final shot of Freddy's hand pulling Jason's mask under. Which, by the way, that hand was played by Kane Hodder. Fun fact.
Interesting.
Yeah, he pulled Jason's mask down. Because they weren't going to actually bring in
own
Robert
mask
Englund
down.
just to pull out a mask. That would be stupid.
That's valid.
But yeah, that's my thoughts. Chris?
Yeah, I would say as a whole, this movie is a mess and really it's kind of a pile of doo-doo, but it does have a couple of shining moments that you know you do really just have to see to believe. Yeah, the really cool death, and also
The diner scene. The diner kill montage.
As you can tell from how much I laughed earlier when we first talked about it, the scene of Jason getting shot to oblivion and then blown up just makes me laugh so hard every time I see it. And I do love it. I really do. But everything else surrounding it is just not worth it. Except for the kills, which are incredibly gory and well done. But that's all it has going for it. Yeah.
And to add on to that before Isaiah goes, because I just had this secondary thought on that, is we've talked about other movies that we said, oh, that movie wasn't good, but the kills were worth watching. The difference with this and why this I feel like isn't worth watching is those movies were bad movies. This movie is insultingly bad. The story is so convoluted and trash that it literally, like, whenever you think, like, you're like, okay, and then it goes, ha, no, screw you, we're doing this, and it's a demon bug, and you're like, what? All right, no, he's making out with them. What? Oh, you eat a heart randomly, and that's like the first scene. It's like, this movie is insultingly so convoluted and so not what this franchise is.
It's convoluted and also just like in a lot of parts really not pleasant to watch. Like I don't want to be Mr. like softy or whatever, but there's like a lot of really harsh language for no reason whatsoever. And then a lot of really weird and gross moments that aren't like, it's not gross gore. It's just like lines that people say that make me feel
Creighton
weird.
Just exists, and you're like, why?
Creighton, who's like kind of our protagonist, is also a terrible person
in every scene he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it really has nothing going for it as far as like the protagonists are concerned. It's just really cool kill scenes and like practical gore. And that is it. Isaiah?
I think what you said just then pretty much sums it up. I think Austin nailed it by saying, I didn't agree with everything you said, Austin, but at the end I thought, yes, like this is definitely not what the franchise is. And part of that might just be the business of a whole new studio running it. Because it felt different right off the bat. But when I got about like 10 minutes into it, especially after the exquisite kill zone scene where Jason gets blown to smithereens,
movie starts
I
out so
thought,
good.
okay, yeah, it actually does. Because they bring Jason back, and seconds, minutes go by to think, okay, this isn't a dream. This is the real Jason, real deal right here. And I thought, all right, they're going to skip explaining the end of the last one, and I was fine with that. I thought this movie already feels a little bit different. I don't know how it's going to develop. I was hoping for some kind of plot or just general structure where they thought, we're just going to give the audience what they want. Not always doesn't make for like a good movie necessarily, but I was excited for that. And then they did the opposite at every turn. But I mean, by the worst, removing Jason from the movie almost entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, if if you're gonna skip explaining the end of the last movie, it makes like the end of the last movie kind of burdens the movie that succeeds it with having to go on without Jason, right? And then they thought, okay, we're gonna skip all that. And I think excellent because I want to see Jason. But then, for really no reason, if they're gonna, shoulder off the burden of the last movie, they decided to do away with Jason anyway. And I think this is the worst possible outcome, personally. Again, that was just what I wanted to see. Doesn't mean the movie's bad, but at the end, yeah, you gotta like you have to give the people what they want to some degree. Like anyway, I think that's the worst part of the movie. Overall, it seemed less than the sum of its parts somehow. Because in ways it was a lot slicker than the previous movies. I think all the previous movies really. Um a lot of the deaths, like y'all been pointing out, were really, really well done. And there were parts where I think, okay, this story isn't this immediate formula. It's kind of unfolding. But then by the end, the story was somehow not very satisfactory. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of the original, I think up to about the last movie where he takes Manhattan, Jason had been kind of snowballing gradually, very gradually into like this bigger and bigger force of nature. And it was like smaller gradations of each movie. Then they really leapt far with him taking Manhattan, and this one is a far leap as well. And it just seems so far removed from the beginnings that endear the audiences to Jason. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's just different from the rest of it. But good deaths. I also agree five is worse for the
Yeah,
same
that's
reasons.
valid,
Yeah.
valid criticisms.
And it's the final Friday, right? So we're done. We're going to move on to a better series now. What?
No.
Oh, no, no, no. There is still Jason X, as we alluded to earlier. Jason's going to space, baby.
No, are you
Hey.
serious? That's
That's
Just
the
like
plot of Jason X.
Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola Starlight Jason X, oh my god!
Yep, Jason's going to space, because why not? And also, whatever. It
And
can't be.
also whatever.
Genuinely, I don't know if it could be worse than this. And from what I
Well,
understand,
when in doubt,
I don't
it
think it
could be.
is.
When in doubt.
We'll find out. Bye-bye.
Ryan.
Bye.
Bye.